Hi, I'm Dan from Ausgel,
I'm Trent from Titan Power.
Hi, I'm Ronald from Titan Power.
and today we're going to be talking with Trent and Ronald from Titan Power about batteries. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. Titan Power has seen some major success in AIRSOFT and recently in gel ball as well. So congratulations on that success.
Thank you. Yeah, we're so, especially being in Australia, this is a new thing for us, and so happy to be a part of just the massive growth you guys are seeing there throughout Australia. And we're definitely working hard. Every time we get an order from you guys, we run in back in the office in the production facility, tell everybody that we're going to have to be working double time here to keep up with you guys, because it's pretty crazy, and we're super excited to be a part of it. So thank you.
That's our pleasure. And Trent, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Trent Clausen. I am the president and chief engineer here at Titan, which essentially means I'm spending most of my time trying to make the batteries as the highest quality as they possibly can be. Also just being aware of what our players are experiencing, and then just trying to make the batteries just cost as the least as possible, but also maintaining that great quality. And but I started Titan in 2015, and since then, AIRSOFT actually, our AIRSOFT side of it started in 2018. So between those few years, we were building batteries for drones and other people, like we're going to talk about in a minute, kind of NASA project, how that led to
So
AIRSOFT
cool.
being, yeah, it's pretty fun. But yeah, I have a family, 3 kids. I live here in Idaho, which is just a beautiful place. We live right near a ski hill, and so we're way up in the mountains. I personally, I don't have like a ton of hobbies on the side, because just my whole life is Titan. I genuinely love working and doing what I'm doing. I'm one of the few people out there who just genuinely, have their dream job. So I love working here with the team that we have here. Just really, really good people. And yeah, I just love AIRSOFT and our other businesses as well.
So how about yourself, Ronald? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm working now for 2 years for Titan Power, the AIRSOFT division, helping Trent with international sales and marketing. And before that, I've been in AIRSOFT for, let's say, about 20 years already. I started my own website. I co-founded the Dutch AIRSOFT Association. And well, from there, I've always enjoyed AIRSOFT really a lot. And actually, by accident, I get in touch with Trent and Matt regarding the AIRSOFT division. And since then, it has been a really fun ride. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool, and you've been absolutely valuable to us here at Ausgel as well. So really appreciate everything you've done for our brand, both of you. But switching back to you now, Trent, this NASA project for Super Ball Bot, please tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I think to back up a tiny bit, we had actually built a few prototypes for AIRSOFT, but as you know, a lot of the where the battery goes in, it's really small, a really small space, and so we didn't feel like we could build a battery that would have the performance we wanted in that kind of confined area. So we kind of gave it up and moved on and had in a bunch of other projects. Well, later that year, we're contacted by a team at NASA to help build a battery for one of their robots. And immediately seeing the specifications for it, essentially the diameter of the tube that the battery was going to go into was tiny. And same thing, we responded like, look, that's really small. Is there any way you can make the tube bigger? How can we work? How can we change the design? And that they're too far along in the design process to change that. They needed the battery to fit. And again, kind of expressed some concern that I don't know if this is really possible. And then they assigned some awesome engineers, which was like to help us out, which is pretty cool, because I'm not a trained engineer. I actually have a business degree, so I'm definitely not an engineer by education, and those guys were just awesome. And so we spent many months designing methods and testing and everything to get this battery to fit. And you can actually see the robot online. Well, we eventually did build batteries for this robot, It's really cool. Long story short, it's a robot that kind of has its different tubes and kind of pulleys and strings, if you will, to kind of change its shape, and it kind of, through just changing its shape, and kind of roll around and move around. Anyway, it was really cool. Well, about halfway through this project, started realizing that the diameter that we were dealing with was actually pretty similar to a lot of tubes that AIRSOFT uses. And so, the kind of light bulb moment turned on and said, you know what, maybe when this is over, we could take some of this technology that's, we developed together and totally legal to do and everything, to actually take it to AIRSOFT. And so that's really where AIRSOFT was born. That was kind of mid to late 2017. And then 2018 is when we actually had our very first, our V1 battery that we took to AIRSOFT games. So that's how that was the NASA project that kind of got, AIRSOFT is because of a project we did with NASA. We probably would have never moved forward except that we went through that project with them.
Wow, that's very cool. That's quite the story for the origins of the AIRSOFT Titan battery. Very, very impressive. So, Ronald, I've got a question for you regarding the size and span and influence of Titan Power. One of the things I noticed was the sheer volume of influences you guys have got on board with your batteries, which wouldn't happen unless you had a great product. So can you just run us through how far your reach is?
Yeah, well, it's just amazing how fast and quickly we've gone in the past few years. As we mentioned, we are just operating for maybe 2.5 years, and of course started in the USA, where we found a lot of positive feedback, which is really, really humbling, and a lot of influencers joining us as well. For example, Jet the Desert Fox, one of the major accounts here in the US. And we went really quickly afterwards also in Europe, expanding with a lot of dealers and also influencers on board. For example, Kelly Femme Fatale is also supporting us. She's located in the UK. And in just a few months, we've signed contracts with distributing partners in Europe, also in Asia. Red Wolf AIRSOFT is our distributing partner in Asia. And Red Wolf, and together with Gunfire, they take care for distribution in Europe. And that just in a few months. That was crazy. That was really impressive. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. And I guess back to you now, Trent. This isn't just this isn't just limited to AIRSOFT. You guys actually have products that span other industries. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so Titan originally started building batteries for hobby airplanes, just a tiny little airplane with maybe a few cells in that battery. But as that business grew, we started to kind of getting closer and closer to commercial-sized companies, and they started, starting new contracts with larger commercial companies. A lot of these that I can't mention for reasons, but essentially we're talking like defense contractors in the United States and globally as well. There's a couple in Europe as well that we do business with. So we build big batteries for of commercial drones, both multi-rotor and fixed wing airplanes. And that's actually where that's how we got started. And I actually really love this because this really helped our AIRSOFT team, because while certainly a battery failing for an AIRSOFT gun or a gel blaster is not good, and a battery failing for a drone is particularly bad, because it falling out of the sky would obviously be, seriously catastrophic. So the level of quality and just pure obsession with that started. That DNA is in AIRSOFT, and and the batteries we make for globally, that DNA is part of that as well. We also do batteries for ground-based vehicles. We're on the verge of launching our electric vehicle program. That's going to be insane, and spending a lot of time on that right now as well. But yeah, we do batteries for all sorts of customers all over the world that are not just AIRSOFT. And it's, again, really fun to see the two teams working together because both teams now support each other as far as technology, build methodologies, and quality assurance, things like that. But a lot of those skills we stole from our flight team to feed the AIRSOFT team, which has dramatically improved the quality of our product. And then vice versa. Now our flight team can benefit from the manufacturing skill that AIRSOFT, because it used to take us like this battery here used to take us 48 minutes to build
Wow.
this 3-cell, and now we can build the same thing in about 9 minutes, and the quality is way better, like 2-3 times better. And so you just imagine how much work goes into that. It's pretty fascinating to see the machine that makes the machine, if you will. And so it's a big company, but we benefit from engineering skills and prowess from all sorts of companies all over the world, especially a lot of these defense contractors or organizations like NASA or other universities, because their engineering teams help us design their batteries. We work on that together, and we're just better for it. And so I'm just grateful that we have this whole conglomerate of skill and people that are obsessed with that quality, so that all these teams can benefit from that.
That's actually pretty amazing. I mean, when you consider that, these batteries, I mean, 9 minutes, it's still pretty humbling to realize that there's someone there physically putting these together, and it's not just like a high speed, production line in Asia somewhere where you have a machine just busting out buttloads of batteries. You've actually got a lot of love and care going into these things. So I think that's something that I really like about the Titan batteries, and it speaks volumes of the quality of the batteries when we receive them in Australia. So well done, guys.
Well, we have a saying that wrong costs 10 times as much as right. So getting
Nice.
it right is way less expensive than just messing it up. And so why not just get it correct the first time? It's going to be better for everybody. So it's definitely worth that work. Definitely worth the
Amazing.
effort.
Excellent. Trent, we're going to move into the viewer questions now, and the first question is actually for you. So we've had Scythe17 from Discord ask 2 questions. Do you plan to make products for smaller battery areas? Is the first one.
Yeah, this is the question. I can see Ronald smiling in the background. This is a question we get asked a lot, and we ask ourselves a lot. The challenge comes down to that the cells that we use are 18650 cells. So 18, that first measurement's the millimeters in diameter. And so we're really constrained by that. And I think our batteries end up being about 19.4 millimeters, 19.5 millimeters in diameter total, which if you pause for a second and think, we do all of this by only adding about 1.5 millimeters. It's insane. And a lot of other battery companies, they're in the 22 millimeter range. So they're adding multiple millimeters. The reason why I bring that up is we blood, sweat, and tears going to make those batteries as thin as we can. So really, we've maxed out the diameter that 18650 cell can be and still get the performance that we need. And there are other cell sizes out there. The problem is that those cells don't have the capacity and discharge performance that they would need for an AEG. We do have a few prototypes we've worked with, but the discharge rate's just not high enough. And so we wish we would, and that certainly the future we will see. But it looks like most of the companies like Samsung, Sony, LG, a lot of these other companies that we're working with, a lot of their efforts are actually going to larger cells, not smaller cells. And so we'll see, as we'll talk about in a little bit, when we talk about future projects that Titan's working on. We hope that there's a solution in this kind of longer term, but at the moment we're stuck with that size, although our most recent versions are just even smaller than they have been in the past.
You know what? That's such a cool thing to hear, because I mean, everything that I hear from Titan is all about progressing and getting better and improving the product. And that's something you don't normally see. Once most companies have a solid product, they normally just stick with that, and that's their flagship. Whereas you guys, I always see you trying to always push the boundary, which is really impressive to see. Look, this second question that Scythe17 had, I'll switch to you now, Ronald. What can your batteries offer me that a cheaper LiPo can't?
Interesting. Well, on our website, we dedicated a whole page regarding our Titan AIRSOFT technology, showing you all the benefits for our batteries compared to LiPos, for example, or compared to the older NIM-H batteries. But some of the highlights for sure are capacity. Our capacity is enormous compared to LiPo batteries. Also, the metal cased cells, they are really really sturdy, and well, airsofters, they can bump into some issues. I guess that's the same as the gel blasters. It can be rough sometimes, so these batteries can well, can take a hit, so to say. Also, it has we call it no fade, which means that the battery will keep its charge really really long. So for your impression, it's about a decrease in capacity of 1% in 2 months of time. So that's really convenient for those players as well that don't play too often. And speaking of convenience, that's also a really strong point for our batteries, I think. They're easy to maintain, easy to charge, and well, very pleasant to use. So those are some of the highlights. Yeah.
Oh, look, that's very cool. I mean, for me to become a believer as a gel baller, like a player over here in Australia, I remember I was a little bit skeptical at first until we received our sample shipment from Titan. And I've personally been using one of the brick batteries, 11.1 volt brick, and it's been absolutely amazing. I mean, I've had this thing at a game day where I've had a 4 to 6 hour game. I don't use it for 2 weeks, come back, and the cells are still reading at like 4.1 volts per cell. So it's, it's still almost full. Absolutely crazy. You don't get that same sort of performance out of a LiPo. And, for what the type of blaster I use, it's been absolutely perfect. But look, switching back to Trent now, we do have a question here from Aaron Roberts. He's from the Slopperators, which is the team that Ausgel sponsors. What can we expect to see from Titan in the coming years?
Yes, so I think what, boy, it's a good question. I laugh because sometimes we're changing things every couple of weeks. So years is kind of a scary number to think about. Being that we've only been in airsoft really since 2018, so we're actually pretty new, about 2.5 years into airsoft. But I think years out, I'd hope that our batteries would continue to get better. We're actually just finishing our version 8, and which is, we've won 8 versions in that amount of time, and we always joke about, so what will version 9 be, or version 8? Because it's always this joke, like, we've gotten version 6, that's perfect, right? There's never going to be a version 7, but here we are in version 8. So yeah, we're always constantly improving. So in a couple of years, I don't know what version we'll be in, but we're just really obsessed about constantly making the performance better, and performance goes outside just like actual amps discharge. But it's kind of like what Ronald was referring to earlier. So we want the total player experience to be just no anxiety, totally flawless. So we're talking about safety, usability, portability of that battery, etc. So that a player, it's part of their kit. They can just plug it in, use it. They don't have to worry about it. And so there's a ton of factors that go into making that battery perform so that it's just something they like absolutely love. And so I think in years, obviously, we'll continue to make those improvements. I'd also imagine that, by then I'd expect a higher capacity cell to be available. I'd expect higher discharge rates to be available. I would expect more locations to offer Titan. We're just weeks behind still. I just want to give a shout out to the team, if I could, because they're awesome. I got Nate, Josh, Mike at the battery building team. We have Breck, Ian, and Lucas making our harnesses. And we have Lauren and Rhonda pumping out all the rest of the components. So that's our core team. We have a couple others in the kind of periphery, but those are the guys that make the batteries themselves. So I'd expect that team to get bigger, and that team to get even better at what they're doing. Because again, we've only been building airsoft batteries in this shop for just over a year. So we're so new at this. If you like our batteries now, just give it a few more years. We're going to continue to make this just even better, because that's just, how we are. We're just obsessed with making these just perfect. I then also hope that, like our charger is great. And I think there's more things we could do on the charger. I feel like we hope in the future there'll be more availability as far as stock options to take those batteries so that more players can take advantage of that. I think that our little things too, like our little RPEQ box is okay. but we're trying to make that much, much better so that guys that are going to run a brick pack can have, better options if they, want to externally mount the battery. And then there's a lot of other projects we're working on that are so way too early to mention here. But yeah, I think Titan really, if I were to summarize it in just a few statements, is that we want just to become the brand for battery. Just when you think of battery, you think Titan immediately, globally. And we know that's a very aspirational. I know we're going to have to earn that. And we're willing to put the work in to make that happen, because we really feel like we're one of the few teams, on planet Earth here that are willing to do whatever it takes to make those batteries just phenomenal. And I know it sounds like such a narrow slice of the world or just of airsoft, but it's sort of like the spirit of the company is that we're just going to excel at whatever we get into. And so we're really careful about what we do get into, because we want to make sure that if we do that thing, it's going to be just amazing. And so I think also is that I think as the years goes on, I'd hope that we become more and more just a part of the community as well, because we are so new. Only being a few years, we're still a new brand, and so hopefully as the years go by, we learn more from the players about what they need, what they want, what's making their game not the best, and how can we meet those needs even better, until we kind of become like a household name, I suppose, because there's still a lot of people who just don't know about Titan, who are very skeptical about our claims. And so I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of proof to kind of silence those concerns. So I guess I'm just excited for the future. We've come a long ways in the last few years, and we have a long ways to go. We're not done. This is not us finished. We are just getting started.
Well, mate, we really appreciate that down under here. I mean, one of the things I love about yourself and the entire team at Titan is the dedication you have to self-improve, and that's something that I think is quite rare within a lot of companies nowadays. And that's greatly appreciated. And I suppose everything you're talking about now leads into the next question, which is from Natasha for you, Trent, again. Will you ever expand your product offerings beyond batteries? I mean, are we going to see a Titan blaster or Titan airsoft gun?
There's some things we were talking about, but it's really early. Or I don't know. It's going to be interesting because we talk. I mean, I'll just be transparent. We talk about a lot of these other, the whole, like obviously a battery's plugged into something. So what's the next thing down the line? That would seem to be the most obvious. But there's some really good companies out there that do a really good job with a lot of those technologies. And I think we're only going to get into that if it means we can make something we don't want to be a me too company. We don't want to be a company that's just sort of like another option or just a way to make a little bit more money, because that's not, I guess we're making money, but that's not why we're doing this. We're totally doing this just to totally, change the market. And I think I think once we get the batteries kind of solved, which I joke because I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Well, we can have new versions, but I think we're certainly going to look at other things, but it might be things that you might not expect. Like, for example, I have to give a quick shout out to our T-plug initiative that Ronald's so big about. So I have some airsoft T-plugs here that, well, of course, without going way into the weeds, the Dean's Tamiya world obviously is, and other connectors is something that people are always talking about, but Titan is pushing really hard to get the Dean's, the T-plug to be the standard globally, because it's such a better connector. And that might not sound like a big deal, but that actually really can affect the performance of your rifle, and it can change the way that game's played for a million reasons. That's probably for a different phone call or a different meeting for another day. But I think things like that is probably what you'd expect out of Titan in the near term. But yes, we have other projects we're working on that are not just batteries, but it's going to be, we'll probably won't make that an emphasis of our time until we really get the battery question solved.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And Ronald, for yourself, we've got Zach Stiles, the captain of the Ausgel Sloperators, has asked, how do you recommend we store the batteries?
Well, good question. Storage is important, but it's quite easy and convenient with the Titan batteries. We ship the batteries at about, I believe, 30% of storage. Then they are most stable and most safe to ship. But what we actually recommend to players is that they, after usage, they just put them on the shelf and leave them there till the next game. Of course, check the voltage, check how empty the batteries are, and see if you can maybe play another game. People need to get used to that, because normally with the lipos you charge them maybe halfway the game already, or at least after a play of a good play you charge them again. To get the maximum lifetime out of your Titan batteries, just leave them there, maybe play a game or two with them, and then give them a full charge. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, because it's one of the things I've definitely noticed, and I'm still getting used to myself with my own Titan battery, is the fact that I can just take it to a game day, unplug it, leave it on the shelf, plug it back in, keep going. I mean, with the lipos, I'm just so used to having to baby the thing, you know, like I get it back home, I've got to storage charge it, and then I've got to make sure it's just perfectly balanced charged every time I go to a game day. And of course, in Australia, there's people who use lipos unknowingly until they hear their rate of fire start to slow down. And as we all know, that's a really bad thing. If you're using a lipo, you've likely damaged a cell if you're doing that. So, yeah, it's great not having to worry about that with with the Titan batteries. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got another question here, and I guess this is one for you, Trent. It's from Aaron Roberts on Facebook, and he's asked, will you ever develop shake-to-charge batteries? A unique question, this one.
Probably not. I believe, if I'm understanding right, tell me if I've got this right, this is sort of like, I know mobile phones, this was a thing a couple of years ago. You just shake your phone to charge it. I think I know, and here's why. Because of Dan, what you just mentioned is that you're charging this pack and you're able to play potentially multiple games with it, that you don't have to. Like, shake to charge just isn't needed, because as long as you're charging within every couple thousands and thousands of rounds, then you'll be good. And we even have like a kind of running challenge, a running joke between a few other of our fellow airsofters, that if you could take one of our bigger batteries, like our 6000 11-1, can you kill it in a week? And so some of these guys are going on like 4 or 5 day milsim events and still not killing the battery. And it's like, okay, they owe us lunch, right? That was the bet. And so I think that's alternative charging is just I don't see it as necessary, because as long as you're within mains power every week, then you should be good to go.
That's so cool. All right, I've got another question here for you now, Ronald. So we've got Niall Clark, who unfortunately is currently working in Iraq. He got stuck there just before COVID hit, and he's been there for, I believe, 6 months now. So a good friend of mine. Hey, Niall, hope you're safe, and hope we see you home soon. Now, he has asked, the lipo versus lithium ion topic comes up a lot. What are some of the safety differences between the two, along with performance, charging, and discharging?
Well, there we go. Let's first start with the charging and discharging part. We already discussed that a bit. You definitely can use them more easily, so to say. Of course, it's always good to monitor it and maybe stay at home at least while charging. But it's less complicated, so to say. Also, when you look at our Titan Power chargers, you can just plug in the balanced charge port, and then you're basically good to go. Regarding performance, we've been asked that quite a lot, actually, because our lithium-ion batteries have a lower C rating. And we always say, well, C rating is only half the equation, because the output actually matters. So our C rating is 16C. However, our smallest batteries come at 3000 milliamps. So that multiplied, we supply at least 48 amps output. And with version 7, we did some major improvements in that area as well. And we also launched a Pico LiPo program, so to say. That lipos of similar voltage and similar size, we compare at least as good. We perform at least as good as those lipos. So that's not a question anymore.
Oh, cool. All right, well, switching back across to Trent now. Trent, tell us a little bit about the version 8 batteries.
Yeah, so version 8, again, internal joke at Titan all the time because we work so hard on getting a version finished. And then on our Discord server, I'm like, hey guys, I have some ideas for version 8 or something, or version 7 or whatever the version is. And we got a lot of eye rolls like, oh, please, we just went through this, Because as you can imagine, every time we change a version, we have to change all our components, all our production downline. There's about 120 individual components that go into make all of our batteries. And so you make one change like this and it just, everyone has to work extra hard, but welcome to Titan, man. That's what we do. So I've actually got a version 8 pack right here. Some of the differences between a version 7 and a version 8 is a little secrety, but essentially it comes down to it takes up less space, although it's like we're talking about 0.5 millimeter at this point, because again, that 18650 is the smallest we can go, but it takes up a little less space. It has even less voltage sag, which is it basically has even snappier performance. So when you're pulling the trigger on like a really heavy AEG, then it can even respond. That inrush, that current can go even quicker. There's also probably our biggest return, or the biggest issue that caused issues with our packs is some of the top tabs pulling off. So when somebody gets their battery in their rifle and they're pulling it out, some people are grabbing it by, let's even get this, they're grabbing by the wire and just really yanking on it. So we've done some changes to really reinforce those parts of it so that it's stronger. And then it's a lot of little details. Some of our wiring is shorter here. That just it's more kind of like an industry standard, but it's also just takes up less space, so you can have more to work with. Some other little details. I mean, this is kind of a small thing, but it can really increase our production, decrease our costs, and actually makes the product thinner and look better. So hello, that sounds awesome. But it's just a little detail, like our heat shrink tubing is all pre-printed now. So we used to have like a black layer of heat shrink, some stickers, then clear heat shrink to protect the stickers, which, as you can imagine, that's multiple production steps. But now we print our heat shrink right on there, which I know isn't like groundbreaking, but it's all these little changes. So yeah, essentially it's thinner, it's faster, looks better. Yeah, we're excited. So when that's available, we're actually not making like a big deal about it because, version 7s are still out there. So it takes a little time for those version 7s to kind of work their way through. I think maybe in the next month or so, we'll kind of be a little more vocal that they're out there. But, Ausgel has a lot of those, I think, now already. So I'm excited to see what you guys think.
Yeah, we've already started pushing them out to a lot of the retailers in Australia, which has been pretty cool. And I remember that was, talking about the differences between the versions. One of the greatest pieces of advice you guys gave me was to tell the difference between a pre-version 7 and a version 7 was that the version 7s are identifiable by coming in 3,000 or 6,000 milliamp sizes. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So our version 7 Plus uses a VTC6. VTC6. It's a Sony cell, and that is a 3,000 milliamp hour capacity with per cell, and then it has a higher discharge rate by about 10% C rating. So as Ronald was talking about earlier, when you combine those two together, you get like a 30 to 40% discharge rate improvement than our old version, which was already, way better than any other lithium-ion battery out there, for sure. But now it's as good or better than a LiPo, which is obviously awesome. To be frank, a little surprised by this. Actually, just really quick story, if I could. We built the version 7, and then we ordered, just actually right on my corner of my eye here, we have like a box of about, Ronald, I want to say almost 20 lithium-ion packs from all over the world. And so we got all these packs, we did all these measurements, did all this crazy stuff to see how we stacked up against them all. That was when we were making a version 6. So we had this idea to go to version 7 with our production here in the United States and started going into production with this version, making all these improvements on it. Well, during this testing, Ronald was like, well, how do we compare to against a LiPo? And a lot of us were like, that's a bad question, Ronald. Why? We're not comparing, but we did it anyway. And dang it, we were like this close to beating a LiPo, and that just made us all really upset and mad that we were that close. We went back to the drawing board, and I think we're on version like 7.9 or multiple kind of version 7s until we finally squeezed out that last few amps so we could beat some of the lipos of a similar size. And that's when we were like, this is really cool. So anyway, fun stuff. So yeah, version 8 is just continues on that mission to make it even better.
Oh, well, absolutely thrilled to be part of that journey with you guys. And now back to you, Ronald. We've got a question here. Paul from Facebook, he asked if you guys have a 4-cell battery on offer at all.
Well, 4-cell, we don't have them. We don't have them in our product line, so to say. We offer the 2-cell 7.4 volt packs, both in brick, stick, and nunchucks. And we offer the 3-cell 11.1 volt options, also in brick, stick, and nunchucks. A 4-cell, it's quite uncommon, at least in the airsoft world. Maybe that's going to change in the future. Of course, we will closely follow that up. And as we mentioned before in this interview, we have our own production facility now in the US. So if we need to adjust anything or we need to experiment a little bit, we are sure and we're happy to do so. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, look, guys, we're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon. But before we actually do, I think this is probably the part that I've been looking forward to the most, and you guys have probably been dreading. But we've been doing this with everyone we've interviewed on this podcast, and we're going to be asking to hear your best impersonation of an Australian accent. Maybe starting with you, Trent, over in the USA.
Oh, man. Well, I lived in Scotland for a few years, so maybe my Australian accent's going to it's going to be the first Scottish Australian accent you've ever heard. But let's see here. So, okay. Oh, man. Okay. I'm a little embarrassed, but let's try it. Okay, so first of all, I have to apologize to all Australians out there and to all humanity for what you're about to hear, but let's give it a go. So I did some research on this because I wanted to be prepared. So here we go. I've written it down, so I'm just going to read from my script, okay?
Sure.
Okay. Oi, mate! Sorry. Sorry. Okay. All right. I'll skip that next one. I don't think I can do the next line, but I'll do this one. I'll say, okay. Oi, Ronald, let's get brekkie at Macca's.
I love it. Oh, that's fantastic. Absolutely nailed it, Trent. And the Macca's part, that's brilliant. And now we're going to hear this from the European side. So, Ronald, give us your best Australian accent.
Yeah, well, there we go, all the way from the Netherlands. Well, I visited Australia one time in Melbourne, in Sydney. And why I wondered all the time was the greeting and saying, "How are you doing, mate?" And I really like that sound. So hopefully I got close to it.
Yeah, that's pretty close. That's very good for someone from the Netherlands. So, yeah, well done.
You did it.
So Dan, I want to hear your American accent.
Hi, how are you? That's all I got.
You said it without using the word awesome. Everyone I talk to that tries to do an American accent, they're always like, awesome,
I don't think it's that awesome, but I like Pop-Tarts. That was terrible. I apologize. That's woeful. And I'm not even going to attempt anything Dutch, anything from Europe. So yeah. All right, guys, that's been heaps of fun. And look, just lastly, I guess, let's start with you again, Ronald. Do you have any advice for the Australian gel ball community?
Obviously, I've seen the Dutch airsoft community growing strong since 2013, and then airsoft became legal here in the Netherlands. And what I wondered at first is that a lot of people were really enthusiastic, but were not really into collaboration or cooperation. And I believe that's a really important thing to stay as a whole, to stay united as a community. Also on the business side, but also on the community side. And don't forget your legal entities to be in place. And then, well, it can be a lot of fun also in Australia. Sure.
Excellent. And how about yourself, Trent? You got any advice for the Australian gel ball community?
Yeah, I think I'm unique here in that I've only been into airsoft for a couple of years. So most of my life, I didn't even know it really existed. And so being a part of airsoft, I'll admit I had all sorts of ideas of what airsoft was going to be like, what the people would be like. And to be honest, it was something that I didn't really want to get into because it was just I had all these ideas. And so when I went to my first game, sort of taking our kind of our Titan prototypes, I was amazed by how just awesome the people were. Everyone was, laughing, having a good time. There was a lot of just really good people just having a lot of fun. And of course, when the game got going, it was more serious, but because of it's a sport, right? But before that, it was so refreshing to see such a really close community, and they were so welcoming to me, who was this outsider, never been there, had no idea what I was doing. They were so willing to teach me and let me and help me know how to play the game. And a lot of the players were very willing to kind of walk me through and don't stand there and you're going to get shot if you stand there and all these things. Because I'm a business major, I'm just like, just wandering around in the middle of the field with a white shirt on, just getting hosed by babies, right? Anyway, that's my advice to any community, is that as you want to expand and help the rest of the community that aren't gel blasting or airsofting or these kind of things, is just continue to have that welcoming attitude and the care. Let me show you how to do this, and put your arm around them and be very, very much like that, because that is what has definitely kept me involved in airsoft since then.
Well, gentlemen, that's some very sound advice, and it absolutely does reflect what the Australian community's like. I mean, most of the games that I've been out to, and many others in Australia have been out to, we do notice that it is very welcoming in a lot of fields, and it's refreshing to see. I mean, we've even got people that attend these events and don't even play. They're just there for the social aspect of catching up once a week with a whole bunch of their friends. And that's something that I really like to see in gel ball personally. And and it's good to hear that it's exactly the same in airsoft. But look, otherwise, thank you so much for your time today, guys. Can you please let us know how people can find Titan on social media or online?
Sure. Well, we're quite active online. So when you go to gettitanpower.com or titanpower.eu, you'll find all our product information and details. On socials, check Get Titan Power on Instagram, or our pages Titan Power on Facebook or YouTube. So you'll find a lot of info and resources, and also users helping you out.
All right. And for yourself, Trent, does the Titan Power team there, do they have, is there anyone else there that's sort of involved in the game that people can follow? Is it
Yes.
Matt, I think that I've
Yes.
heard of? Yeah.
Absolutely. Matt Horner is, he's the grandfather, if you will, of Titans Airsoft. He's really helped. I was the engineer, and he was the airsoft expert, and still continues to be, and still very involved in Titan today. But Matt Horner, I don't know if he personally, I don't know if he has a lot of social media channels that I'm aware of. Ronald, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm actually probably the wrong person to ask. I just don't use social media personally at all. I'm just an engineer, man.
No.
I just build batteries.
Love it. All right. Well, look, thanks very much again, guys. Really appreciate you giving your time, especially seeing as it's Sunday in both of your countries right now. But look, that's all we've got for you today, guys. I'm Dan from Ausgel. Remember, you can find us right here on Facebook, also on YouTube, and you can see us on Instagram at OsgelAmmo, and of course, www.ausgel.com.au, where you can purchase Titan batteries. Thanks very much for your time. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.